Welcome to Truth and Company Boxing Podcast. I'm your host, John Dioria, and tonight we have another segment of 20 random questions. And tonight's guest is bare knuckle boxing world champion, Mark the Shark Irwin. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you taking time to come on the show. I do a lot of traditional boxers, but I like to try to get some of you guys on that do the bare knuckle boxing and the UFC guys to get out to a bigger audience. So first off, a little bit, do you got any fights coming up right now that you want to talk about? Anything scheduled?
Yeah, absolutely. We are scheduled to fight on December 2nd. It's going to be the end of year event for BYB Extreme Bare Knuckle. BYB 22 is going to be a triple header. So there's 3 world championship title fights, mine being one of them. And I'm going to be facing Julio Tenari in one of the 3 main events for this card coming up. So we're in training camp. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. And we got about 7.5 weeks to go.
Okay, now where can the fans see this fight at?
So the fight is going to be on the beIN Sports app. That's BEIN, beIN Sports. It's a free app to download on your TV or smart device. And the fight will be airing live there. And then you can find it afterwards on YouTube on the BYB Extreme Bare Knuckle YouTube page.
Nice. All right. So you ready for these random 20 questions?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. First question. Tell me about your background and your upbringing a little bit without the boxing history or any combat sports, just kind of your upbringing.
I was born in San Francisco, California in the late 80s. And I've lived all up and down the California coast from San Diego to San Francisco. These days, I'm in Huntington Beach, California, Surf City, USA, which is one of the great fight towns in all the world. And it's great to be here and to have an opportunity to train with some of the best fighters and coaches on the planet.
Okay, now, if you don't mind, now, I heard a little bit, and you can correct me if I'm wrong at this. Now, did you grow up kind of like a troubled kid a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely got in fights and, got in trouble with the law and whatnot coming up as a kid. Dropped out of college before I got into combat sports and started training in boxing and MMA.
Okay. All right. Question 2. How did you get involved in boxing and then transitioned into to bare knuckle boxing?
Yeah, well, I ran track and field in college, and I ended up dropping out of school, and I was looking for something to do, and I started training boxing and MMA, and before long decided I wanted to start competing, and that was about 10 years ago, and I've been competing and fighting ever since, amateurs, professional, boxing with gloves, and now bare knuckle.
So now, did you have a lot of amateur boxing matches or no?
So I started kind of late in life. I had my first USA boxing fight when I was 24 years old. 24 years old, and that was 10 years ago. I had 10 amateur boxing matches. I had a record of 8-2, and I won the state championship novice bracket 2 years in a row.
Yeah, but before you became a boxer, even though you became a boxer late, I heard that like your dad was a huge boxing fan, so you kind of grew up following the sport.
Yeah, I've been watching the sport my whole life. I remember watching the first fight I ever saw with my father was a VHS recording of an old fight. It was Marvelous Marvin Hagler versus Thomas the Hitman Hearns. And I was obsessed with it. And I started watching all these old fights because my dad had this big VHS collection of old fights that were all labeled and dated. Everything from Rocky Marciano to Ali, Frazier, Foreman, Norton, all those fights during the 70s and then into the 80s with Tyson. So I grew up watching a lot of old fights and I've always been a combat sports fan. Started watching MMA when I was in high school. But it wasn't until my early to mid 20s that I started training in combat sports.
So no, I've watched other interviews on you, and some fighters, they just go in there and fight, and they say they watch fights from time to time. But I get this sense that from the way you talk in different interviews that you really studied the game, because I can tell the way you talk about it, and you can talk about the different terminology and the different things that people can do on defense and offense. And it sounds like you really, when you watch these fights, you really took it in and like would break down like tape in your head, because just the verbiage that you use in a lot of these interviews, to me, it sounds like you got a pretty good boxing IQ compared to a lot of different fighters.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, fights are pretty much the only thing I watch. I don't really watch television unless it's fights in boxing and MMA. I love watching live fights. I love watching old fights. I love studying combat sports, and I love training in all different kinds of martial arts, whether it be boxing, Muay Thai, grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. I love fighting and the art and the science of it. So I definitely study the game. I'm very much a historian of such, when it comes to boxing and MMA.
Oh, it definitely comes across in your other interviews, just so you know. You can tell that.
I appreciate that.
All right, question 3. What boxers have inspired you in your career?
My favorite boxer of all time is Prince Nassim Hamed.
Big surprise there.
Yeah.
I should have known that. I should have known it. I thought about it yesterday when I was watching some of your interviews, because of all the different animal prints that you wear. That's what came to mind right away.
Yeah, I definitely pay homage to the great Prince Nassim. Jake LaMotta would wear leopard print rubs as well. Yeah, but huge fan of those guys. Not just for their fighting style, but their bravado and the way they carried themselves inside and outside of the ring.
Well, I guess that kind of answers some of my next question, number 4, but if you can go into it more. What is the reason for all the animal prints that you wear on a lot of your clothes?
Yeah, I started wearing leopard print robes and trunks, like I said, as an homage to Prince Nassim, who's my favorite fighter. And then I started doing my hair leopard print, and it really, people really responded to it, and it's very much become a trademark of mine. So I kind of embraced it and leaned into it. So now I always do the hair for every fight. I'll do the leopard print hair and then matching trunks and all kinds of wardrobe to match. I got my leopard print shades on. Right. Yeah, it's definitely become part of the brand.
Yeah, but see, I can see that you also took the whole personality and character thing from Prince too, and you know how to promote yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Because, like you said, with the clothing, with the hair, with the glasses, that draws fans in, and it makes you memorable. There's a lot of fighters that you can forget the next day after a fight.
Sure, absolutely. And I definitely try to bring the show, whether it be at the press conference and the face-off to the fight itself. Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing that I love about you and Prince is Prince would have long entrances. Yes, he was showable. Yes, he would dress and everybody remember him, but he could also fight. And
yes,
and if anybody's ever seen you fight, you could fight.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, my good man.
And I knew right away when I first started watching some of your fights that you had regular boxing technique. You can see it in there. And there's a lot of bare knuckle fighters that don't. And you can clearly see that you've studied regular boxing before you got into bare knuckle boxing, just off of your technique.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've trained a lot of martial arts, but all my competitive experiences with amateur and professional boxing before coming into bare knuckle. And I've had some great teachers of the game. When I started training in the gym, I was fortunate enough to train at a gym where Jesse Reed Sr. would come in and train some of his fighters. And so that was one of my first role models in the gym, and someone I got to train and spar with his fighters and be around them and learn from them. Who's obviously got a wealth of knowledge, having trained over 30 world champions. And then being at Bobby's Boxing, Coach Mac Kurihara was a trainer of 7 world champions himself. So a great trainer, and having him in the gym, able to learn a lot about, the sweet science of boxing.
Yeah, sounds like you're surrounded by boxing knowledge. All right, question 5. Do you have any boxing superstitions?
No, I don't believe in superstitions. I'm not a superstitious guy.
Okay. Question 6. What is the craziest or the funniest story that ever happened between you and a boxing fan?
Craziest thing that ever happened between me and a boxing fan.
Yeah, a weird or crazy story, something that sticks out when you think about it between you and a fan.
Fans are usually pretty cool when you meet them in person. I got stopped in Walmart by one of the employees that recognized me the other day, and he asked to take a photo. Yeah, I always appreciate the love and the admiration of the fans, and it means a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Question 7. Well, you were just talking about the knowledge you're surrounded by and the guys that have trained you or that you've worked with. But question 7, who are some of the bigger names that you've actually sparred with?
Couple names that come to mind. I've been fortunate to train with Chito Vera, who is one of the top-ranked UFC fighters currently at 135 pounds in the next title challenger. I was in training camp with him when he was getting ready for Frankie Edgar, and recently, just a couple weeks ago, got some sparring with him. Cub Swanson, the UFC Hall of Famer, is another famous guy I've been fortunate to be around and train with quite a bit extensively. Those are probably 2 that come to mind.
Okay. Question 8. If you had the power of invisibility for 24 hours, how would you use it?
I would be rich, my friend. I tell you that.
Okay. Question 9. If you were to go on a fishing trip for 1 week and you could choose 2 people to go with you, but one would have to be one of your friends and one would have to be a celebrity, who would you take on the fishing trip?
I would bring my dear friend and coach, Ian Uncle Creepy McCall. And if I could bring one celebrity, maybe Chuck the Iceman Liddell.
Okay. Question 10. If you got to sit down with a former president, what president would you want to sit down with and talk to?
Donald Trump.
Okay. All right. Question 11. If you could sing on stage with one musical artist, what artist would you go on stage and sing with?
Dang, that's a good one. Elvis.
Okay. Question 12. Now, obviously, I threw this question in there because they call you the shark. So, would you do a cage dive with the sharks?
No.
That was a quick answer.
I'm staying out of there.
Question 13. If you could have a bare knuckle boxing match with any fighter in history, alive or dead, who would your ultimate fight be against?
I want to fight some old UFC fighters on a Jake Paul undercard, so stay tuned.
Okay. That's my answer?
Yeah, you'll see. It's gonna come to fruition too. Some old UFC guys, I'm gonna beat them up on a Jake Paul undercard in
Okay.
2024.
So now this next question is a hypothetical question. Question 14. Would you rather spend the evening smoking weed with Mike Tyson or drinking wine with Kevin Hart?
Smoking weed with Mike Tyson, always. Yeah.
Okay. Question 15. What's the best advice you've ever gotten from another fighter and who was it?
I think I always regularly get good advice from my friend and mentor, Ian McCall. And he's someone that I always seek counsel or guidance with, whenever I'm in need of wisdom. I'm fortunate to be good friends with and trained underneath someone who has competed at a very high level and who's been through it all, the highs and the lows of the sport. And so he has a lot of experience to draw from. So that's always usually who I I reach out to him or my father when I'm looking for counsel. Yeah.
Okay. So just to throw this off the question, speaking of your father, is he a big supporter of your career? Is he a big fan?
Yeah, absolutely. My dad has been to all my amateur fights. He drove to one of my pro fights in Tijuana during the pandemic in his 70s, and he filmed the thing. He's a huge fan and supporter, and I appreciate the fact that he is supportive of me in this journey.
Okay. Question 16. What's the first thing you did after winning the world title?
I drank a lot of whiskey and smoked a lot of cigarettes.
Okay. Question 17. What is something that your boxing fans don't know about you?
I'm usually a lot more laid back in person.
Okay. All right. Question 18. Were you good at any other sports besides boxing?
I ran track in college and I was okay at it. So yeah, running, I would say. Other than that, no, not really.
Okay. Question 19. What advice would you give to someone that wanted to become a bare knuckle boxer?
My advice would be to train hard and make sure that you have a good coach and a good camp to work with, and be ready to put in the work for the long haul. It's a long road, and if you're gonna do it right, you can't cut corners. So yeah, I guess that, get a good coach and do the work.
All right. Question 20. Your last question. When your career is over, what do you want your family, your friends, and your fans to say about Mark the Shark Irwin?
That I always put on exciting fights. Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you taking time to come on and have fun with the 20 random questions. If there's any sponsors that you want to shout out to, or the fans, or anything you want to say before we end, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you to all my sponsors: CBD Health Solutions, Accounting Your Life, Tough Teeth, A1 Boxing, Huntington Beach, Bobby's Boxing Club, Get Physical, my strength and conditioning coach, Corey Beasley. Yeah, everyone on my team. Yeah, all my sponsors. If I forgot anybody, I apologize. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you, my guy.
Yeah, and one more time, let's shout out the information for your fight so everybody can tune in again.
December 2nd, it's going to be on the BN Sports app. It's BYB 22, the end of year event for BYB Extreme Bare Knuckle. It's going to be a triple header. There's going to be 3 world title fights, including yours truly, Mark the Shark.
All right. Hold on, and the truth has spoken.